Welcome to the REI Hacker Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of real estate success. Join us as we dive into the journeys of top investors, mentors, and industry experts. And now, let's hand it off to our host, Benson Juarez.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. I'm really excited for my next guest. His name is Bob Diamond. Bob is an attorney and a seasoned entrepreneur whose career spans over 2 decades. It's marked by his success as a business strategist. He's an attorney and a developer. He also is a coach for Harvard Business School Startup Program. I want to learn more about that. His insights and expertise have featured on major media platforms such as Fox, NBC, CNBC, NPR, and TLC's Flip That House, establishing him as a thought leader and a sought-after expert. Bob, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you can. You've got, over 20 years of experience, so much so that the Harvard Business School lets you come in and teach some entrepreneurship and startup courses, and that's amazing. But I'm confused a little bit. Are you an attorney who dabbles in entrepreneurship? Or are you an entrepreneur who just happens to be an attorney? Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. And that's actually one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, what's the biggest difference between, the theory that they can learn in school and, a lot of people who teach business in business schools teach it because they weren't able to succeed in the real world, but then they're passing that same knowledge on to students. And now then they take that information that maybe isn't proven and they're going to the real world with it. Like, what's the biggest gap between the theory and the real world? I believe it. That's pretty smart, right? That's where things are going. So it's not a bad idea to go down that path, but there's still a lot of other businesses that will succeed that have nothing to do with AI. Would that present an opportunity for people who are ignoring the gap where there's still demand in business that isn't AI driven? Like, think about a fix and flip, right? Or, some of these real estate centric opportunities, AI isn't really like overtaken it yet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. For years, they would try to incentivize you to use, even like direct deposit, right? Or it was just like anything automated, ACH. So they'd give you like a little bit of a spiff just so you didn't have to do the check thing because it was all about convenience. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not too bad. I've never heard of it. It's maybe they've had 900,000 users since they started the company, but because Google has a lot of that already. Like you can send out a message in the future. It also, mine tells me like if no one's responded, like it puts a little note in the inbox to say, hey, do you do a follow-up? I don't know if that's an AI thing they added recently, but I've noticed it recently. In any case, let's talk about, so you've done a lot of different things and you've really niched down to really 2 major areas, but it's in the category of overages, right? So you're really focusing on tax and mortgage overages. And I also read someplace it was also like foreclosure overages as well, but it's all in this same space. Mm-hmm.
You're welcome, Benson. I'm going to be of some help to your listeners and perhaps you, because that's why I'm here. So whatever I am.
Oh yeah.
I think it's that one. I was a full-time practicing attorney from 1990 till pretty much 2005, meaning taking private clients. And then I went out. So I do like my in-house legal work, but I don't take care of clients anymore. I think law is a bad business for smart people.
Wow.
Because you end up working by the hour and you help other people. You don't build
how
equity
long is that money available for? Like if there's a foreclosure,
that's a foolish mistake.
And they forget about it, they don't know about it. How long does that money sit in an account?
Their MBA program where they have 90 cohorts, meaning 90 little, and I'm one of their coaches that they can come to and ask for help. Usually for me, they're asking for help in marketing, evaluate their idea. Like, is their idea any good? Maybe make some connections for them if they need something. And I'll think things through because these are very smart people, but they struggle like everybody else. And about them is to a person, they are so grateful and so appreciative for any help you give them, which I think is interesting. And they also listen to advice and execute on it, which is important because, whoever you listen to, if you took the time to listen to them, you should execute on the advice if you think it's good advice. And they do. Those guys do, and they do well. Been doing that for a couple of years, and they asked me to do it because I have a lot of entrepreneurial success, and they're looking for real world teachers, but professors are limited by nature to more academic information. And as you probably know, there's a big data works in the world, right? Yes.
Sure. I'm actually surprised it's that high.
That's interesting you ask. So this is the MBA
Yeah,
program.
it seems to me it would have been a lot lower, maybe in the teens.
So most people have some experience, which is really good. And I would say that if Harvard is anything, it's a giant
I'm surprised that
exercise.
it's as high as 20-something%.
What they're really benefiting
I would
from,
thought it would be lower than
very
that.
accomplished in whatever
the amount
they do.
of money that was claimed.
And the students
they don't
can
know
say,
about
hey,
it.
I need to get distribution.
And I've never seen any education, no like
and
public service
connected
announcements
with,
on television or
at a high
anything
level,
like that.
like the C-suite level. That's
Your
really what that is. And,
your students are doing a good job.
I wish I could tell you something different, but it's not. It's barely an academic exercise.
Because it's them. Those are the ones that are finding these people and helping them to claim that cash.
Really bright, hardworking people who
It's
wouldn't
the
be
army
there if they
of
weren't.
people who are helping the people that lost the
money. No matter
money.
how smart you are, it won't happen.
Get a portion of it.
So you blend all of them together, and then you put industry experts and you got the recipe for a lot of really successful businesses. And right now, what they're all working on, as to the day, because you'll know the answer, they are all working on AI-related projects. Every single one of them. That's had a couple of years ago, but now it's all they want to do is work on an AI project. They cracked me up.
Yeah, it is.
It is, correct. Yes.
Oh, it could be imagine it's pretty fulfilling too.
Not AI.
The person on the other end who hears it, they probably think there's some scam going on, right? Like, oh, you're...
And it won't. It's what they're doing.
Right, exactly.
The kids, the Harvard people, they're working on useful tools from AI. So it has like 100 apps where each app does like one thing. Like you can go on your banking app and maybe transfer some money around, send some money out, check your balance. A handful of things you could actually do on it. And you probably have, if you're like me, like 100 apps. Something to find flights, something to keep your contact list. That's what they're developing. They're developing tools. So it might be for business and you see a vacant house. Maybe that's, a skip tracing app where you just put in the house address and it gives you the county records, but also the contact information for the owner. Or, if you're looking for comps, look, realtor.com for things that are listed on Zillow and all that, to the degree as estimate is that useful. They'll be automating a lot of that so that AI will be incorporated. And that's really what's coming. So I think for all of it really helps because it's going to make your life easier. The same way that, I mean, can you really imagine life without a banking app anymore? Like it'd be such a nuisance. Tenants, they can't pay you by Venmo or PayPal or some other automated, it's a nuisance. Landlords used to go pick up checks. One of my tenants wants me to pick up a check. I'll tell them to move out. I'm like, I'm not go talk to the mailman.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And that's what's coming. So for all of us who like develop an industry expertise, like for example, we're doing
balloons,
that's just going to be made faster, made easier by these tools that these super smart people, because what they look for is something that a lot of people could use and find useful and that they can provide pretty cheaply. It's like this morning, I signed up for a thing called Boomerang, which I had, but I had the free version. So Boomerang is this thing that later, if I'm up at, like I was up this morning at 5, I'm not really sending people emails at 5 in the morning. I think it's a little odd because then it'll be, close to the top of their mailbox when they get in. It's not buried under things that came in after that. I'll be back and trying to start a conversation at 5 in the morning, which I don't want to do. But they have a service also that will email hasn't been responded to in some set time period. Like, because I lose track of those things. But this 2 days if they haven't answered. And that's what it'll do. And that's like super useful. And they charge $4.95. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Not thinker. Then I realized it said when I signed up how many users they have. It's like 900,000 times $5 a month. You're talking some real money. It's 4 point. In any case, back to our real estate conversation. That's probably the most interesting. Yes. So it's the overages, even for real estate people. So it's like weird little niche. So they're like, what is that? And I'll explain to everybody. So when there's a foreclosure, whether it's because you didn't pay your real estate taxes, so tax foreclosure, mortgage foreclosure, or deed of trust, which is just the same as a mortgage, basically. When that property is sold at, which is extremely common, then there's extra money left over. Because think about it, if you owed, say, 3, that's probably about 6% of the value of the house in most states, somewhere in that range. Even if you doubled it for penalties and interest % of the value of the house, when that house sells at a tax foreclosure auction, it's probably selling for 7 over
it's such a great story because it's
after
after
the
trauma.
12% of the value.
I don't know how long it was after the foreclosure happened, but
big spread.
After a year or two, they've
waiting
basically moved on.
So it's waiting for someone to.
But that's different than like when you're trying to buy someone's house while they're in
fill in your
foreclosure.
1040 or 1040 easy.
So if you're like pulling foreclosure lists and you're going there,
deposit my bank account. Here's my bank account.
The challenges for the investor are much higher. Like you need some cash, you need some connections, you have to have an exit strategy.
Your income taxes.
You have to be some sort of a negotiation.
Apply for the refund. They just don't give you a refund.
Strategist, expert to be able to
complicated. They just
get a win-win where everybody gets the right price and walks away with something.
is in people's
So it's a much
minds.
bigger
First of all, they're
problem to
completely
overcome.
stressed
And
out.
this
Number one.
seems
But
so,
number two, they
so,
think
so few
they sold my
barriers
house. That's the
to get
thing.
it
They sold
done.
my house. Therefore, and it doesn't matter whether it's a sheriff's holding the
Mhm.
sheriff's sale or the trustee holding the trustee's sale. That's what they're thinking. Really speaking, they're not quite right. Yes, they sold your house, but really they
Right.
forced your house to be sold and is claimable by the former owner. Kind of like you think of a HUD-1 settlement sheet. You do a settlement sheet. The top line is the gross, and then you have the deductions, the mortgage, the real estate commission, and all the different things you have. And then money left over, and that's called seller's proceeds, right? So the title company gives you a check. This is really the same. There's a top line number, what it's sold for at the auction, and then there are deductions, this much in taxes or mortgage, if it's a mortgage foreclosure, cost of the sale, and so on. And at the end, there's extra money left over. And that's referred to as an overage.
Mhm.
Some might be called an overbid or excess funds, but overage is kind of the generic way to talk about it. And that very few people know about it. As a real estate entrepreneur, this tells you a couple things. One, if you wanted to pick this up as related to real estate, it's completely adjacent to it. And this is just a way to generate lump sums of cash. Like
Right.
this isn't like, hallelujah, you're going to get a cash flow every month of the year for the rest of your life or until you sell the property. This is something we're helping someone get this money you found for a percentage. And, I'm an attorney, so I think in that way, so a third to 40%, depending on the complexity of the case. And that should sell to people.
Right.
And it does because they relate to it the same. The majority of it, you get 30%, I get 70%. And meaning the former owner gets 70%. One of the things that's cool about the business to me is you're helping people who really are thrown to the wind. Someone loses their house through a foreclosure sale, whether it's tax or mortgage. Emotionally, it's devastating for them. Financially, it's devastating. All the payments they ever
Right.
made are gone. All the
So
equity
this
they built up
isn't
over
really
time is gone.
considered real
It's all
estate,
gone.
right? It's almost like when
And we're
people are doing
typically
notes.
Tens of
Like
thousands,
it's not
occasionally hundreds
really
of
real
thousands of
estate.
dollars.
It's trading
That
paper.
completely
It's
changes
almost
their
like you're
life.
involved in the
And
stock
just
market
from nothing
more than
to,
real estate.
suddenly they're getting, $30, $40, $50,000 or more. You can imagine what a boost that is and a financial boost for someone in that
Yeah.
position. And that it's just great.
Mhm.
And for our real estate entrepreneurs, it's also not a business that needs much cash. Like you're not borrowing money to buy the claim. Service like filling in the forms and filing them. And your general costs are like $70 to send a mobile notary out and make sure everything's in order and then forward them to you. It's an application. Typically 3 years waiting to be claimed. It's a little longer. Like Georgia is 5 years. Delaware is forever. Delaware is the one state that's forever. But average is about 3 years. It depends on the state because each state, but generally 3 years. And, we've had to make a chart in our office to get all the times down, but plenty of time to apply if you know about it. But as I point out to like people I teach this business to, I'm like, you could have an old bird in your backyard, just an inch under the soil. But if you don't know about it, you don't know about it. And that's just like that. It's just sitting there waiting for a really simple, like 1-page application to be filed. But if people don't know that there could be any money or there's a possibility, so they
I
never
think this would
apply.
be a great place for people to
And
start.
I'll give you
just
the
to
stat, by the
learn
way. The state of Maryland
some of the
nationwide,
skills that it would need to
a
you need to
statewide
succeed in real
statistic.
estate, like the persistence, the follow
And
up,
that I checked
lead
for three,
generation,
and every year it's about the
there's
same
some
number.
negotiation, but you're not really
72% of the
selling
time,
much
people
except
don't
for
claim the money. It just
the
goes
opportunity
and
to
is
get
kept
the
by
money
government.
back.
It is. And it,
And so a
vary
lot of
by
those
like
skills could
a
translate
couple
well
percentage
into like a
points each year,
wholesale
but average is
business, and
70.
then maybe a lead
And
generation business for
I was too,
building a
actually.
portfolio of rental
That,
properties or doing fix and flips. So this is like a
well,
great
just remember, I'm
training
saying
ground for
70,
that with
not
a
claimed.
lot
So
less
28% does get
downturn.
claimed.
Like if it doesn't work out, like you're not gonna bankrupt your family
So
doing something like this unless you quit your job. And you just don't
they
have
don't.
the chops to make it. So I love the
No, they're
business.
not
It's
going to
really
say
cool. Like
anything.
how many students do you have?
To the government. Yes. And the numbers are huge. There are approximately 3,000 a day,
Yeah.
meaning Monday through Friday. And
No, it's okay. I was just
for
trying to
mortgage
get a gauge
foreclosures, it
on it.
varies depending whether it's slower, faster to 2,500 a day. 2,500 is like
No.
peak, like that's 2008. The nationwide, it's 5 days a week, and you're talking, 4,500 to 5,000 per day. It's mind-boggling. To be able to get people checks and help them out, it's just meaningful, very much. Talk to they all related to the Prince of Nigeria also, right? And you have pinpointed exactly the challenge in the business, which while I'm talking them past this is such nonsense. And the best thing about it is that so for quite a few of them, they will spend some time listening to you because they want it to be true. But it takes them a while to actually believe us. Matter of fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I had a woman that we helped that literally, when we found her, like to that level. And so my guy had her on the phone, he was talking to her, and she's like, him at all. She said, I didn't have any money, so I wasn't worried about getting scammed because I don't have anything. But she said, I talked to him because there was somebody to talk to. Well, nobody called her, but people could call her. But she said, my sales guy's named Marshall, said, Marshall seemed like a nice guy. He seemed so intent on getting the money that I said, I'll just give it a try. Why not? I'm just not giving you any money to do that, or anything up front. We just handle it. And if we get money, we get a percentage. If we don't, it doesn't cost them anything. And so with Carrie, I knew that I was helping. We got her the money. It's $32,000. So not a fortune, but some good money, especially living at home. And I ended up going over there to hand deliver it. And it's a long story as to why, but essentially I wanted to, McMahon used to do at the Publishers Clearinghouse, like bring a check, go to like a beautiful suburban house and balloons. This is like the picture. And I go to this homeless shelter in a terrible section of Hartford, Connecticut, with just like foreigners with their hands in their pockets and hoodies over their heads, staring at their shoes. And I'm like, this is not what I pictured. But anyway, so I did that. And when I went there, I'm talking to her and I said, you just out of curiosity if this was real. She's like, well, I still don't believe it now. I'm like, why not?
So someone's starting your program or just starting this in general.
I said, well, why'd you sign up? And she said, well,
it seems to me there's a couple decisions you have to make.
I figured,
figure out which path you're going to go down. Like, number one is,
so I said, okay,
which state are you going to do it in?
Her big problem, so and one of the things that led
some
me to
states
go
are
up
probably
there,
it's more difficult and there's
when
more
she was in nothing, her ID,
compliance,
her wallet,
more red tape than others.
All that was gone.
And probably most people want to do it where they live,
out, so
right? They think that somehow that's going to help them.
And we have no ID and no bank account.
They're on the phone, so it probably doesn't matter where you're located. You can't even go to a
check cashing agency. Nothing you can do. So I'm from Connecticut. I think I'll go visit
and
some
then
people,
secondly,
some friends.
The strategy, so either tax, mortgage, or foreclosure.
But anyway,
right? But
I ended up
each of those are going to be different
in
each state.
The bank, TD Bank, which is the bank, and they wouldn't open an account for her.
So the tax rules in Denver are going to be different than
I think she
some
thought
other
that
state,
I was just going to not give her the money.
Which could make it more challenging than if they chose
I'll
to
open
do
up a checking account in
foreclosure
my name.
overages in
at TD Bank,
Wisconsin.
they give you a debit card. I got the debit card. I said, here, you set the PIN. Here's your debit card. Congratulations. And that gave her access. It's enough to get her started again. Because then she could go and take care of shit, I can't even get an Uber to go get me to the new license or to go, to get, she said, we have a public phone here in the homeless shelter with like 400 people. So she said, it's ridiculous. She said, I can't get anything done, but with some money and access to money, she could get getting a place to live. And today she's fine. Like she's back on top again. Has a townhouse that she rents. She has a life again. And it's nice being a part of that. So I think, yes, I would agree with that. That's, you don't have fix up, but you and I were talking before the call. You just get surprises that you don't know about. Like you open up a wall, you're like, oh my God, that wiring is from 1922, or look, you can't always know. And it's also tough. Like with a foreclosure, I used to do pre-foreclosures. And if you're talking, my number was 65% of retail minus fix-up costs. I might go a little higher for a really nice house, but not cost overruns are real. And you just, you can't be at like 90% of retail. It's just not, the math doesn't work. And that's tough because you do have to negotiate for a really great price, but you're facing someone on the other side losing everything. This, like the foreclosure's done. I can't change that at this point because all that's done, the foreclosure's completed, house, and there's a pile of money left over. And, that's easier to work on. There are no termites involved in contractors either. So I think it's a really good business that you can do with real estate for down payments. You can use it to get the cash together. Say you're doing pre-foreclosure and you want to reinstate the mortgage, which can be a great strategy, but you still need the money to reinstate, right? It's not a pay later. Ready cash is definitely your friend in real estate. And that's what this can do. It's a ready cash kind of business because real estate is much more passive. As you build up a rental portfolio, or if you have a really dialed in fix, you don't have to do that much. I agree. I think similar things, I would say notes for sure. Even wholesaling in a way, under contract and you flip the contract, assign it to someone else. It's pretty straightforward. And like I said, I still love real estate. I still own investment real estate. I still think it's great. I think it's really great. It's harder to get it to generate short-term cash. Not that it can't be done, but you work harder to get it to, like, say, you got to be pretty diligent for at least a couple of months in getting it renovated and back on the market. And you got to be on top of it. You won't make any money. So, I think it's a good adjunct to it. If version of me just starting out, I would say, yes, definitely do this, accumulate your cash and use it to buy prop percent leveraged, where you're just borrowing half.
So for people that are starting, realistically, if you're setting the expectation for when they get their check, it's probably 4 to 6 months.
Go to the foreclosure auction
We're going to
with
get their
cash.
first check.
So that you can just, because those are auctions. If you're there with cash, yes.
So they're probably spending a lot of their time.
Active, we probably
doing
have
damage control with their
hard to say exactly
clients
who's active. I'm just thinking of what comes
want
through
to
support.
figure out how to get the
pretty strong
process
support.
going quicker. So they're probably
I would say
calling
like 500 or
the
600
salespeople like,
active
hey,
people.
what's going on
It's
with
more
my
than that.
check? When am I getting
I wish I
it?
could tell
And
you
it's
it's
just
more,
like,
but
I told you,
you
like,
produce like education.
there's a process here.
You
Trust the
put
process.
education
We got to get
analyzation.
to
And
a
I can
point
only
when they're
guess
actually
because I
done
guess
with
like
all of the legal stuff
sends
they got to
questions
do, and
into
you'll get your
support.
check. But
like I won today, be an example of
that
how you
probably
cross over.
only adds
So
to their
my student
uncertainty and
finds
that this is a
a
scam, right? Because
property
they're
where
waiting
the
so
owner was
long.
an else that report like what the government is holding. And this one, the owner was listed as an LLC and like a mom and pop type operation. Just a guy had an LLC. Deal didn't work out. He lost the property. And so she ends up talking to the man's wife, and it turns out the man was deceased. And the question was, well, she wants to move forward in an LLC. The shares are not in her name. They're in her husband's name. Can she do anything? And I was like, sure, absolutely. She's the only heir. There are no children or anything. As the wife, she's going to inherit those LLC shares. So absolutely, they probably won't even require you to file anything other than get his death certificate, which the wife will have, marriage certificate showing she's the wife. And they'll most likely just let you put in a claim. You can do something more formal if you have to. Wouldn't need to. If you had to, you could open a probate, but that's for this kind of case, you wouldn't normally need to. Like imagine you find like the abandoned property where it's an LLC and you're like, well, how do we figure out who owns the LLC? And so go to the Secretary of State website, look up the entity on the database and see who formed it, address, you'll get a name, skip trace them to get their contact information. And honestly, if you're smart, just get on the phone. You can send a letter, but a letter is going to get you less response than a phone call will. And just call them. Would you be interested in doing something with it? I'm looking for a project. And next thing you know, you can have a client that's a house at a great price. For sure. They do. You're right on this. I'm impressed. You're right on it. Correct. Yes, correct. You're exactly dialed in. Yes, these are all the issues that we teach people. Here's a contrast. So generally with tax foreclosures, they're administrative claims processes, meaning you're going to apply to the foreclosed tax collector's office generally, and they have a form. And you're basically saying in the form, this is from June of 2025. Sarah Smith was the owner. She's applying for the funds, and she was the former owner. The form's really not much more complicated than that, because what the county needs to do is pull the file. So they need the address that you're talking about, and who is this person claiming the money, which for us is always the former owner. So not particularly hard. That in, and then they'll process it. It takes them typically 3 to 4 months, so 90 to 100 process a claim. And then they give you a check. So pretty simple. In the mortgage foreclosures, though, I can't think of any state that isn't. So always the money is sitting in a court. It gets deposited in court. And this is an interesting thing that most people, you're like, I don't know, Wachovia Bank, and you foreclose on a mortgage. Like people sometimes think that's a profit center for the mortgage because they get that valuable house. They don't, because if it's valuable, there's going to be a bidder that shows up and pays for it, 70% of value, but they'll pay for it. As soon as the mortgage, as soon as that bidding is high enough to pay off the mortgage,
most businesses in communication,
they don't get the extra.
Like you said, even if there's
so
no
when
news,
there's extra money, like say at the sale,
that text just to let them know
$400,000
that you're still there
mortgage balance,
and you're working for them.
Wachovia's getting the $300,000.
That'll help them sleep better at night.
But the extra $100,000 is deposited in court, and if the owner doesn't show up, the government keeps the money.
Yeah.
So it's not a profit center for mortgages, but because the money lawyer to file a petition.
The only thing that I can see being a challenge for people is that as they're getting more and more clients,
but that involves
setting up their CRM to send notifications to and reminders. Like,
not terrible.
Okay, you got 50 accounts open.
$2,000 budget's usually enough for
this
for
person
like
who you
that.
haven't talked to for a month
but
needs
money.
Follow up, right? So you send yourself an automated
claim. It cost me 50 cents for
message, like, hey,
and
respond to this
if
person.
I hire a lawyer,
reach out, say hi, right? So you can manage all of this stuff.
Non-judicial states, and all the mortgage foreclosures are judicial in nature, meaning you need that budget. Most of the tax sales are non-judicial, meaning just you fill in an application. I'm coaching new students. I'm always like, think about that, and most likely you're going to want to be in the tax foreclosures format where you're just filling in a form and sending it in. And really, there's not much to do. Once you turn in that form, it isn't waiting for your tax refund. It doesn't help calling them. It doesn't help like calling the IRS every 3 days, finding out where your refund is, authority and asking them, because it's, that's not going to speed them up any. And so there's nothing to do. Just call and sign up your next deal. And I always tell my students, I'm like, focus on what's going to get you the money, which is people and signing them up. Like that is your job. Fill up your pipeline. Yes. That's treat it like a pipeline business. Like if you put in, one a month, you just keep dropping your pipeline, pretty much you're going to start getting one a month out. And as long as you build a robust pipeline, it's actually a nice feeling. And everybody wishes that's not realistic. That's not what happens. But when you fill your pipeline, you could be at a very nice spot because December and you feel like doing Christmas or holiday stuff. If your pipeline's full, go do your Christmas and holiday stuff. Get filed and then take the rest of the month off and don't worry about it because you've got your deals in the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do, because that's at first I didn't manage the business properly, so I ran into a lot of that. So here's how it started. It sounds terrible, right? The white lie is tell them it's going to take a little longer than it's actually going to take. So you set, 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, depending on the bureaucity. It's bureaucracy.
So one of the things that occurred to me is
it's easy to throw the bureaucracy under the bus.
And in real estate attracts
nobody ever complains when it's a little faster.
I think
so
maybe at a higher level than
set
other
an expectation
industries,
with your
right?
client than it's at all likely
marketing. We could create a list.
And the government is pretty efficient.
Right.
I know that would seem weird to say, but
and
government units.
So I see two angles here where people could potentially maneuver themselves into a situation where they're
reaching out to the
either number one,
collector and saying, "Hey, could you give us a
doing the same
certification
service,
for
but
the
they're charging up front,
taxes? Could you give us a receipt?"
and maybe not providing
grass
service,
cutting fines, making sure those are paid. So
okay,
for the
if that's not the one, then
that's
the other one is
that file
scamming the
state. People get responses. If something
maybe
wasn't paid,
forging documents, right?
Get it
pretending
paid,
like
get a
you got the
receipt back,
signatures and you got the notary,
showing
that it was a legitimate signature, and you're taking that to the state and saying, "Hey."
Because they have millions of dollars in these accounts, getting stolen from their holding accounts. So there will be at least 2 people at a senior level just double checking. So what you want to do with your clients is, first of all, set a reasonable expectation up front, like 6 months, and that's fine. And you're probably going to beat that, so you'll get rid of that headache. But also keep them informed. So we do 2 things in our over time after some being dogged by clients. When something happens, we let the client know. Like, just for example, notary out with the paperwork package, because they're responsible people, they get everything signed. When I get the papers back from the notary, I say, "Hey, want to let you know, I got the papers back from the notary. Everything looks complete. Thanks so much. I'm going to send it in. I'll let you know when they get it. I'll be checking with them next week." So I let them know that I got their papers, I checked them over, and then I do send them in. And then a week or so, I'll, again, either text or call. Oftentimes it's just text, but I'm happy to. But just saying, "Hey, I talked to the county. They have the package. It's going to take them, 2 to 3 weeks before they'll actually have it. So I'm going to reach out to them in 2 or 3 weeks. And as soon as I talk to them, I'll let you know what happened." And then, 2 or 3 back out to the client, even if it's no news, even if it's like, "Hey, I called and they haven't gotten to it yet, but she promised me she'd do it by next week." So I'll feel like I hired this guy who I didn't know from, Adam, and he's on top of it. And you keep clients from just suspecting, "Oh, I knew it.
Right.
I knew this was a scam," or, "Oh, this is never going to work out. Get this guy, Bob, he's actually working on it. I feel really good. I'm happy someone's actually doing something for me." Secret to having, like, not being dogged by clients and just having happy clients. Just keep them informed. Yes. Yeah, and even it's fine. A text takes 30 seconds, a minute, maybe. I send some crazy ones because I dictate them all the time. So everyone's like, "Did I?" But when you get that big, you'll have some staff. I'll give you our number. So our average $1,000, it's $140,000 to be precise. And we're usually, I don't know, like 75 claims at a time. We're working way too much. Like, I could never keep up with that. I'd have a client call me and I have no idea like who they even were because it's too many. But I have 2 paralegals and I have a secretary, which I built up to. When I started, it was just me. But all of our clients get a letter at the beginning saying, "This is like what it's like interacting with us. The first week of the month, you'll always get it. And you can have it however you choose, by email, by text, by phone call." My secretary's handling that. Like, I may get pulled into something or some question, but generally as the business owner, I don't need to do any of that. And like, I want to stress, this was not a like day one kind of thing. I had no staff day one. I was the staff, little desk but also $100,000 claim is worth to us so it doesn't take long to be able to cover the cost of some staff. And you really want to get those it's a time wasting activity to be like, just, sending a note to clients on updating them on their case, but it shouldn't be you. So once you start getting your first couple of claims in, take some of that money that you're making, even if it's just a remote assistant, could easily be that.
Right.
I'm working virtually. My whole company is virtual, meaning nobody else works. Like, this is where I work. I work in my house. It's not a workplace. It's my house. So everybody's remote. And this is the kind of business that lends itself to that, because you're not dealing with real estate or physical inventory.
Oh, I bet.
You're just dealing with basically sending letters and putting in checks and depositing them. And it's a pretty rich world. It attracts its share.
Yeah, the worst of the worst.
Good luck selling that service. That happens. That happens for sure.
Right.
Yes, that happens for sure. We bump into people, homeowner, and I learned this little trick. I'll talk to a homeowner, and even if they're not like ready to having a conversation, because usually these things are a couple of conversations before anybody signs up. when I get off the phone, I will check with whatever agency's holding the funds, whether it's the county or the court. I just check to see if there are any applications in for the money. If there are, then I say to them, well, look, we're looking at making claim of that. Could you do me a favor? Could you send me over a copy of the public record? So they will send that over to you.
Yeah.
But I also immediately pick up the phone and call my prospect and say, hey,
right?
I know we just talked so quick, but
it is a challenge to go get someone to say
your money
yes
is being applied for. I know because I just called the agency about it.
Right?
Are you applying? Someone's trying to steal them. And they will inevitably tell
me
no.
What do you think the numbers are?
And the reason I know they're going to tell me no is if they just tell me that.
The people you can get on the phone.
Thanks for calling, but we're already on it. We hired somebody or we're working on it. Because they'll recognize, hope you get your money. Thanks for your time and good luck. So I know that they're not going to tell me that, I already need to do work they've already done. They would just tell me. I get those deals 100% of the time, always, because someone's trying to steal my money. Yeah, someone's trying to steal it. And I'm getting a copy of the claim. I'll have it shortly. And I'm happy to send it over to you, a claim in like yesterday, because until the claim is in, the county could pay out the money and you're never getting it back. So I'm happy to help you, but we can't be talking for 3 weeks about this. We have to move. Everybody signs up under that circumstance. And the other interesting thing is when I submit my claim, the county won't pay anybody. They just stop. Like, all right, there's a dispute. We have 2 claims that may appear to be from the former owner, but they won't pay anybody, which is the best news we could have because it locks up the money. And I know I have the right person, meaning the person that could show up in a court hearing, say, here's my ID. I was the former owner. Please give me my money.
So
and
without
the bad guy,
any sort of
if a bad guy showed up, I can tell you his lawyer.
Secrets, right?
If someone trying to steal, like in our claims, $100,000.
How do people find out about these?
Some poor sort of sheriff's
claims or the ones that could be claims? They come to court
to testify. They're not leaving. They're going to be held over and put in jail. So I'll tell you one funny story that sometimes, truth is truly stranger. COVID, we're doing this and everything was remote then. And I had a claim, really big claim, a $300,000 claim in Georgia. It was about it.
I don't know if it does.
We put in the claim, and at the same time, some scammers put in a claim and gets directed into court so a judge can make a decision on it. So I'm like, it's fine, no problem. And so we get to the hearing, and back then they were just going to court.
Now, there's a portion of this that's an audio only.
I'm not making this up.
Be up
I
on
promise.
Apple and Spotify.
A guy shows up.
We do have video too.
Nose and glasses. He showed up on a Zoom call for a hearing in that.
Okay.
Going bizarre. He's like, fake glasses, nose, magic kit. I'm looking at it. I'm like, that guy's a fake. That's the whole thing. And so the client starts yelling. I'm talking to the judge, and the guy hangs up. Zoom call. The client said, get his IP address. We want to get him. Nobody's doing anything. My client got the money. That was his reward. That was one for the record books. But you'd never show up in physical court for that, because you would call the court bailiff and just escort you to the holding pen, because you're not getting out. Because that's, we're talking on smaller claims that are $20,000 or $30,000. You're trying to steal money from widows and orphans. Honestly, a judge will hold you over every time. So I don't mind those when someone's trying to do that. I do mind if we didn't catch it in time, but I usually don't. Is the lists that they have, it's just what they're currently holding. And as soon as the money's paid out, it's just not a low, I don't know, like I don't have any opinion on how much got stolen. I have no idea. I just know that I've run into this issue a couple of times. Working at a high volume, just be granted, we're working at a very high volume, but I still run into it. And there are people out there who are, it's the honest way, which is calling people up, seeing if they want your help, talking and past their skepticism. And, some people can't control what other people do. There are bad actors out there, and I'm sure this is a little place for that, but you can make so much money, honestly. I don't know why you would need to just cheat. Like, it's just cool. They're true. Yeah. Takes a lot of calls. You're going to talk to people. And
so just so people who can't see it,
let me give you my
he did a search for excess funds.
I've been doing it for since 2014.
And then the name of the county and the state.
I think even if I anchor anybody in my numbers, it would be for students when you're starting out. If you can get 5 to 8% of the people to say yes, I think you're doing a great job. I can touch further than that. You can do much more than that. But I think at first, if you have anywhere from 1 in 15, yes, I think you're doing a great job. And as long as you work on big enough claims, you don't have to work on claims as big as we work, but and up is really what we're working. 104,000 average claim size. So we're working those. Would you get a $100,000 claim where you're getting 30%, $30,000? Would any multiples of that? But like I said, that's not, I don't think it's fair to anchor anybody on, oh, you do 10 times that. I think it's, so there's lots to the business. It's not a do-it-yourselfer kind of business in particular. I started it that way, and boy, you're in for a lot of work if you try to be a complete do-it-yourselfer. But if you go to,
I can't
this
see
thing
that
has the ability
number.
to let us
Is it big?
show a screen. I assume it does. Let's see. Do a screen share to show you.
Oh yeah.
I've shared. There's the thing called share.
$266,000.
I'm a lawyer, not a computer tech guy, so I apologize for my. Okay. Well, we'll describe it then. Why don't we describe it? Well, you can describe what you say. So let's see. So do you see anything from my screen share? Share it with you, and I can walk you through it. Let me see you can always edit this to shorten it a little bit. I'm just trying to get you to. Okay, there we go. Do you see my screen? Like a favorites, things like that?
Oh my God. Yesterday?
Yeah, it's a little sluggish on my. Okay, so let's just do this. This is going to be very complicated. Funds, DeKalb County, terrible typist. This is even a good business for terrible typists. So that we did this very fancy search, right? Funds list or excess funds list, DeKalb County, Georgia. I did the technical thing of hitting enter this momentarily. So this brings up, of course, a Google search, and then we see this fancy thing, excess DeKalb tax.
I would believe that as when people are looking at this list, they're taking the top ones and they're going after those. There's probably some meat that's just being, I'm not underutilized, but under targeted because it's not the big ones. Is that part of the strategy that you teach your students that, like, listen, everyone's going for the big ones?
One of the tricks here,
like,
don't
maybe
look
some of the middle ones or the lower end ones are still worth your time.
Or anything. If they're reselling you lists, like, it's out of date. So don't do that. And then the list, I think you can see it. It says excess claim funds form fillable. That's not what you want right now. It's funds list. And this is showing as of, because I know people may be looking at this different date. This is showing as of about 16, is that there hasn't been a tax sale since then. That's all. And so this is the current list. When they hold another tax sale, then, or when they pay out a claim, we'll update the list. So don't get thrown off if you see that it's a month or two old.
Right.
You can see on it, has the parcel ID, which is the tax assessor's account number. And then it shows you how much is left. And I don't deal like this one. What do you think of that one? I'll upload it. It's big. I was hoping to be. Okay. What do you think? How can you see it? Things to observe. So this is from May 4th of 2021. Right now it's September 25. So it was more than 4 years ago. The money's going to be gone as of May of, 5 years. The guy, Subash, that owns this, and I don't want to blow the screen back down because it'll take forever, but Subash was his last name. He doesn't know about this money. Because I don't know about you, if you were owed 260 some rent, how quick would you get down to claim it?
Wow. There's so much opportunity here.
Right. You'd be like,
I'm getting excited just listening to this. I can imagine what our listeners
know about the money.
To the podcast. Same thing with the one under that is
a $96,000 claim. I'll zoom out.
For the people who are looking at this and thinking, oh, I can do this.
And that one,
the numbers are there, the money makes sense. If somebody wants to do this and work with you and get your guidance, like, how do they do that?
And so you just work with the family. Not a big deal, not terribly complicated. And I'll blow it up because I know you can't necessarily, but you can see the numbers here are pretty sizable. It's 32,000.
No, it's okay.
I would say no. What you're saying is rational, but appreciable
Is sure stopping? Do I have to do something
on my end? There's not really
appreciable
competition for these claims. They think about it, they talk about it, they might have heard about it, but they're just not doing it. And it's the same as I think sometimes I feel like a gym owner. It's like I have the gym, it's beautiful, you come work out, you get in better shape, but then they don't come to the gym. And that's pretty much what happens. And there's lots of money here. Older claims because people just are not doing anything. That's all. And there are also 3,000 with sales happening at the rate of, like I said, about 3,000 tax sales a day. Another
here we go
15 mortgage foreclosure sales, again, depending how the market is. I'm guessing that's going to trend upward again. Right now it's more, but with the economy doing what it's doing, I can't imagine that's going to stay down. But it's just, there are like 80 counties in Georgia. This is just one. This is a big county. It's part of Atlanta, but still, you're talking about 80 counties. And it's just ridiculous. Yes. I have a course that I put out that is very comprehensive. It's really just my own business manual. I'm going to try to go back to the video part here if we do that. And I just have to stop screen. So I go. Hopefully, if you feel like editing it, you can edit it out. I don't want to torment your listeners. I'm trying to press the screen share button and it's not discontinuing sharing. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to close that window. Maybe it'll force it to do that. I see. Oh, this is good. Okay, there we go. All fixed. So we have two things. We have a course put out and it's very comprehensive. It's got 50 states worth of research, both on mortgage and tax foreclosures, all the forms you need. And the research is a big deal because, as you had correctly anticipated, the tax sale rules are unique, much different, but they are that state's tax sale rules. So you have to, like, who you're applying to apply. That varies by state. And same thing with mortgage foreclosures, because those, just like you thought, are a separate set of rules also. They're very similar to one another, but similar doesn't count if you miss the deadline. That's for sure. The challenge in this business is just doing it. Like when I see people who are succeeding or failing, the people that are succeeding are doing it. You can do two things. If you go to bobdiamond.com, you can learn a little more about me. There's a presentation, really go through the business and go through like helping you decide if this is something you'd actually want to do. Like, is this a fit for you? I think the good things in the business are that it's not cash intensive. It is something you can do as a side business. There's no time. Like you pointed out earlier, like don't do something silly, like just quit your job, because it's just not a good idea. Go in slowly, look at it, try it, see if it's for you. And if it is, go whole hog. If it's not, say, I learned something to do. The core of this business is reaching out to people, letting them know there's money and seeing if they want your help. Some absolutely won't. And there's just nothing you can do other than offer your services.
This has been great.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I think you summed it up correctly. It is. And its risk of non-success is super low. And if you're willing to put in the work, the success is there to have. If you're not willing to put in the work, it doesn't matter what business you try to do. You have to make that base decision. Are you willing to put in the effort? And if you are, then this is one place it's an active business. You got to keep after people. But if you do that, you'll do fine. And I think it's a great idea to leverage that into a revenue source like rental real estate. As much as you will laugh at tenants, toilets, and termites, it's great when someone else has got some money left over every month. And honestly, you don't have to do that much. It's a good hustle. But it's also very difficult to play the game if you have nothing. You end up giving up too much.
This has been amazing.
Great way
I really like
narrow to a rental property, which is a better long-term game anyway. Or I'm going to buy a fix and flip and make months. There's an Ask Us. I have a YouTube channel where I'm real estate investing because I have a deep background in that. And Overages, so Bob Diamond YouTube channel, 40 videos up there on every topic real estate related. Because I'm a real estate lawyer. That's my practice of investor. And I've developed this deep expertise in overages, but I like to share that info because often people's problems, like they just dig a hole for themselves or they get involved with something bad and you got to fix it. And so I like to just say, do this, don't do that. Like, here's an example. If you're going to do pre-foreclosures, like look at ones where you can shout down and don't worry about the mortgage calling alone. Especially if it's a fix and flip, chances are they're not going to call that. Just use that to keep your cash down and so you don't have personal guarantees on it and don't worry about it. A lot of things will never happen. At the same time, I also tell people about things they do need to worry about. So you get a long-term rental and you just an LLC without telling your bank. It's a problem if you plan on a long-term ownership and its coverage, which you may have just gotten rid of, meaning you may lose because you changed it. So anyway, I try to help you guys know what your perspective, not
sharing all of your knowledge with our audience. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Keep an eye out for really amazing guests, just like Bob Diamond here in the future, where we talk about entrepreneurship and business and just wealth generation. So thanks for listening and we'll see you next time. Take care.
That's a wrap on today's Real Estate Revelations. Thank you for tuning into the REI Hacker Podcast. Remember, every property has a story and every deal is a lesson. Until next time, keep hacking the real estate world.